All right, Battletech fans, so here we are with yet another edition of Battle Talk, and this time I'm working my way down the list of creators, folks. We got the infamous Goji Kai on the show. Say hello.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being on.
Internet.
We met over Twitter, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
But I found
yes, that evil place.
Oh yeah, right. But I found that you had kind of an interesting history insofar as Battletech is concerned, and you also find yourself in kind of a unique situation. Well, I should say not so unique situation. It's actually more of a common situation, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. But it's a unique situation to me in that nobody has ever come to me and said, "Hey, let's talk about that." Let's talk about your channel first. I want to get you started on that because you got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So tell me about how the Worldwide Goji Kai Productions got started.
Now, the real story is I've always been a fan of like kaiju films and bad movies and video games and anime, giant mech anime for years, ever since the late 70s. And I grew up during the golden age of anime and caught the tail end of the whole Showa era kaiju and tokusatsu boom here in the U.S. and just grew up on Godzilla, grew up on Gamera, and stuff like that. So once technology caught up to where now we've got the internet, now we've got YouTube's place to vent my creative spleen, so to speak. I started seeing all these YouTubers out there, and there's this giant community of kaiju and anime related YouTubers, and I'm thinking, I could do that. I could go on there and just be a disembodied voice and eventually maybe get a PNG avatar made, and just have like a little character representation of myself and talk about classic anime. And
there's a channel out there that has essentially what you're talking about. It's called Nerdy Overanalyzed. And he's got this like super
there's
cute
a lot
little
of
chibi avatar. It's so cool. And anyway, you should check him out if you want some inspiration.
I've checked out a lot of them, man. A lot of them. I got interviewed by Kaiju Kim.
Nice.
Kaiju Kim is, she had me on her show, and we talked about Godzilla and stuff like that. And my ideas for my avatar is like, imagine like a little chibi Godzilla. But he's dressed like a typical Yakuza boss. Goji Kai, and Kaicho is the Japanese word that the Yakuza or any kind of crime boss, would use as chairman of the board. The whole thing, the whole gimmick of the Monster Island and Kaiju and stuff, there's so many people that are doing this. It's kind of getting stale. I need to kind of branch out a little bit. And then I saw Tex of the Black Pants Legion playing Battletech.
Yes.
And Mech Warrior Online as Grandpa Tex. But yeah, I mean, I owe my sudden entry into the Let's Play arena. I owe that to Tex. Kind of got the confidence to do that from Tex. And watching like Baradul, the German gamer guy. I might not agree with his love of LRMs, to where he would have like an entire mech with nothing but LRMs and no standoff weapons. My early games, my early Let's Plays and stuff were all recorded into video files on OBS. And then I took them into Windows Video Editor and did my titles and added my titles to it. It was horribly jank. Yes, jank as fuck. That's basically where my channel is right now. I've experimented with other things. Like I once put myself through hell watching 10 of probably the either most obscure or worst movies that Hollywood has ever made and reviewing them. Now, as for Battletech, I got into Battletech when the Satanic Panic had just started. So basically a lot of people were like, "Oh, you can't play the D&D. You know, it's the devil's game." You know, so I live in a college town in Kentucky, and it's the third largest city in Kentucky.
Okay. Sure.
So we have per capita more churches than we actually need. But that's the way. It was weird because like certain games you could get away with, like Star Frontiers. Well, that's kind of like Star Wars. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a fine Christian game, you know. They didn't play with me.
The space wizards. No, that's ding.
Yeah, space opera kind of stuff, you know. Yeah. You could get away with playing that, or Boot Hill, which was like TSR's Cowboys game, you know, cowboy and Indian game, Wild West Simulator 1.
Mad Max.
So there were games that were left alone. Yeah, there were games that were kind of left alone. But then everybody was picking on D&D. Everybody was picking on the Lord of the Rings game. And, but nobody picked on Battletech. So Battletech was like kind of an interesting thing because the hobby shop, we had a hobby shop here called Asgard Hobbies. And Asgard was built into a 2-story house. So like the bottom floor, you walk in, and it was just like you hear the angels singing that, you know, the light coming down from heaven as you walk in on the light shining down on all the minis in the racks and everything, and the terrain stuff to build your terrain in the back, you know. So like, not just minis hanging on the shelves with like blister cards. We're talking like the big boxes of minis that Ralph Partha had, you know, big displays that the owner of the store had painted some, you know, and he was freaking good at that shit. So like, I bought my first 2 Battletech minis there. I bought an old school Stinger Lamb, Ralph Partha Stinger Lamb, and a Ralph Partha Crusader, the Unseen Crusader. And there was 2 big back rooms. One back room, they had broken down the wall and they made one huge room in the back, and that was box sets and books. Any game you wanted, they had either the box sets or the books for it. So like D&D is like, you walk in there and it's like Moldvay Basic, the expert set, and like modules for that, and then AD&D first edition everywhere. You're like, but like,
I'm buying aggressively.
Yes, exactly. But like next to the register, they had one of those big glass display cases. Nothing but racks and racks of dice in different colors and everything like that in there. And this was just like the most involved I had ever seen a store get, you know, for D&D or any kind of hobby. And it was right next door to a Burger King. Yeah, just the fact that you could actually take a break from a gaming session and then go down to the Burger King, bring your stuff back with you as long as you threw it away. It was like an honor system.
Sure.
But yeah, the Satanic Panic saw that it was shut down completely. That guy lost everything. And ever since then, there have been attempts to bring a gaming hobby store back, but nothing has stuck. The thing is, Battletech and all those other games, kind of toward the end of the Satanic Panic is when it really took hold here in my town. I don't know why it didn't really have much of an effect early on, like it did everywhere else, but back toward the end of it is where it really started having an effect, and we started seeing a lot of the damage coming from it. Like that store getting shut down. After that, you couldn't find it here. You really couldn't. So I had what little Battletech stuff that I had left over.
That you'd already gotten D&D from the before times.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And that's what I played with for years.
Sure.
And years. And then Battletech was just kind of forgotten.
You live in a Battletech desert. right? There is nobody there.
Pretty much. That's right.
What I started this show for was folks like you, basically, who live somewhere where, for whatever reason, you can't find anybody to play with, or there is no presence for the game there, or what they've moved somewhere and now all their friends are gone and they can't find a store that plays it. I wanted to take the Battletech experience out to them.
It's
it's an interesting perspective because a lot of people actually live in this kind of a situation where they would love to play, there's nobody there to play with. So I want to get your perspective on that. Living in what I like to call a Battletech desert. What's that like?
My perspective, it's frustrating.
Like, how do you keep the fires going?
Not being able to find a group.
How do you stay as interested and as involved with the hobby as you are when there's no one around to practice with?
I try to find new ways of convincing people that I've gamed with and that still live here, hey, we should try this, give this a try. It's really cool, and then I explain it to them and it sounds too complicated. I'm like, like D&D isn't complicated. Some versions of D&D is like, oh great, math, but like,
well, you want to know what my secret
really
was?
Tricky. It's what?
So when I first started trying to convince my friends to, hey, once in a while can we play Battletech instead of Magic, I said, let's start with Alpha Strike, and I did that, and that seemed to work fine. That's a story you'll hear repeated forever, but what comes next that's important. So we'd played Alpha Strike for however long. And I eventually said, okay, I want to get back into Classic because that's what I've been angling at this whole time, is to eventually reintroduce Classic Battletech and say, let's do this. And they said the exact same thing. They were like, oh, no, seems pretty complex. And at that point, what I did was I said, it's not. I promise. It isn't. Next week, that's what we're going to do. I'll show you. And I just assumed the sale. Like, there was no, hey, would you guys like to? This is what we're doing next week. I showed up, dropped the mat, and said, now let me show you. And they were hooked. Boom. Instantly.
I think what the problem here and why there's not a very diverse interest in different gaming systems, including Battletech in this town. Okay. It's because of Papa Hasbro basically being the pusher. Yes. He's being the pusher of D&D. He's like the drug dealer, and everybody wants D&D because of the high they get from D&D. They don't want a high from an inferior, quote unquote, game. I think that's
I'm not going to judge. I think that with me saying I've only got room in my head for this one thing, if somebody else tried to tell me how great Dungeons and Dragons was, I would say I believe you. I'm sorry, I've tried it. It's not for me. And I wish you all the luck in the world, but this is where I'm going to stick. If somebody else came to me with, this is a great game, brother, you got to try it, I would probably still be like,
yeah, maybe.
Probably not. No. So I can't diss anybody for wanting to kick it with just one system.
Unpopular opinion here, and I know a lot of people are kind of going to probably on your, who are watching are going to go, 5e is based on video game logic. It is Skyrim, the tabletop game. That's basically the way these kids that play it look at it. And it's like, no. You want to play D&D, you play first edition, you play second edition, you play 3.5. You don't play anything past that because those are real D&D. Whereas yes, exactly. But no, seriously, that's just my opinion. If I'm going to play a video game, I'll go play a video game. I'm not going to sit around a table and do a social thing, but it's a video game. It's like you walk into the tavern, there's a big-breasted bar wench, and there's ways to do that in 2. In second edition and first edition, you can do the same thing, but with better
certainly
outcome.
That's not every game, though, right?
No. With a lot of them, it is. I mean, think of the Skyrim big boobs mods that are out there.
I don't play video games, so I don't know.
Well, see, I do. When I want to play a video game, I'll play a video game. I won't translate that into tabletop, like Dungeons and Dragons has become.
Oh, I just have no desire. That's all it is. I just have no desire to do it.
You were mentioning, things like, what I've got planned for the future.
Right.
Well, the first thing I've got planned for the future is saving up enough to get a gaming desktop. So that way I'll have enough memory. I can actually do my own Let's Plays of Battletech.
Sure.
And do my own Mech Warrior Let's Plays and stuff like that. I know people are going to be like, oh God, Mech Warrior Online, that's so overdone. Mech Warrior Online is non-canonical. It is not Battletech in any sense of the word. To me, Mech Warrior Online is the
Hot Takes.
Yeah, it's the ultimate Solaris 7 generator. It is. Okay. It randomly generates Solaris matches. That's basically all it does. The only thing is you don't have George Ledoux being Duncan Fisher over everything else. That's the only thing missing from it.
I know we would all want as much Duncan Fisher as we could possibly.
Oh God, you can't get enough of the guy.
You cannot.
You cannot get enough Duncan Fisher. Hello, Mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. I can't
Duncan
do it.
Fisher. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, George.
Flattery.
If you just happen to watch this,
George probably will watch this and go, "No, it doesn't sound like me."
Right. I tried.
But anyway, yeah. That's one of the things that I've got planned for the future. Another thing is eventually I will get that Battletech documentary that I mentioned before. I will get that done, and I'm going to have to redo that trailer. And I'm happy that people, all 39 of you out there who have subbed to the Worldwide Goji Kai, I appreciate it. You guys are more than welcome to watch my stuff, comment on it, It's great, And the Shellfire Club thing that you started. I was the first. I was the first person. I think I was the first person to actually use that on my profile.
I sent that to the artist, and he was like, "What?" Yeah, he popped.
Yeah. So I guess in a way that I'm kind of like one of the first members of the Shellfire Club.
We are going to have shirts very soon. I've already contacted somebody, and we're looking at getting it so that they handle it for us, and I don't have to deal with any of the shipping or any shit like that. You just point, click, buy, and I get this much, they get that much.
Now, I mean, one thing that I'd like to do, with my 3D printing, though, is to actually make merch that's available in limited edition runs for my channel, like maybe like a little mini of my character.
Yeah.
Or like a mech that's done up for the Shellfire Club,
that would be sick.
The Shellfire Club Atlas,
Yeah. With the horns and everything.
Yeah, clenching a huge electric guitar in one of those mighty battle fists. Yeah. Just raising it to the sky. Well, not like he's playing it, but like raising it to the sky in defiance, Or, like I'm able to like take those minis and scale them up to like larger size to make it easier to paint them. One, but they would look really great on people's desks. So like build something like that. Kind of sell limited run stuff. That's another thing that I'd like to eventually do, to help me kind of make money. But I do have a Ko-Fi. I have linked it to my profile page on Twitter. So, hey, if you really like this stuff and you want to see more and you want to help me out, and later on the Patreon, once I get that started down the road, that'll be for the big stuff that I'm needing from my studio. So
WWGK, thank you so much for joining us here on Battletalk. Folks, we'll catch you next time out on the space lanes.
Be sure to smash our like button and subscribe to our channel.
Crowdfunding is when lots of people give you small amounts of money to help your passion project come to life.